Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Sanchez here with another episode of BroTalk here with Aaron Vera, my brother, and the other host of this podcast. We're very excited to do another episode. Today, we're doing Law 23 and 24 of the very famous book, 48 Laws of Power, banned in 264 countries. No, I'm just kidding. But we're very excited to converse about the different points, stories that these both laws have to give us. So we're very excited. Please, guys, join our conversation if you're interested in what we have to say. Or if you have any questions, please comment down below. Like the video, share the video with your friends, with your family, with your grandma, with your wife, with everybody. We would really appreciate it. And yeah, please, guys, come join us. Law 23 is concentrate your forces. All right. So I'm going to read the judgment.
Okay.
On page 171. So if anyone's listening, it's on page 171. And I want to know, Aaron, what is it that you took from it? And it could be anything about the stories, interpretation, observance, transgression of the law. Like, what did you take out of this, or what that plus what is it that you could teach someone from this chapter, right? But the judgment says that a person should conserve your forces and energies by keeping them concentrated at their strongest point. You gain more by finding a rich mine and mining it deeper than by flitting from one shallow mine to another. Intensity defeats extensity every time. When looking for sources of power to elevate you, find the one key patron or patron, the fat cow who will give you milk for a long time to come. A lot of symbolism here, but a lot of truth. So what is it that you took from it and why? And what is something that you could teach others that you took from this chapter?
Well, this chapter was very interesting. Teaching us how to obviously maintain your power in a different sense by concentrating your forces, your power in one area instead of like dispersing it in multiple areas, right? And like keeping it in your strong suit and what you're good at instead of many places, right? For example, like even at work, sometimes sometimes it's better to be good at something than to like be a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually sometimes when you're a jack of all trades, not that it's a bad thing, but you can know multiple of many things, but not know it to a full extent. While if you concentrate on one thing, like it makes you like a master at it. It
Mm-hmm.
makes you very, very good at that craft in a sense, right? Not that you shouldn't expand, but definitely, focus on maybe that primary thing that you're good at. Um, and one thing I learned about this chapter, I found very interesting the Jewish, I guess I could call it, story of the Rothschilds family.
Mm-hmm.
Is something that we still hear until nowadays. This is a family that has been able to maintain their generational wealth throughout history, meaning throughout a few generations. I believe right now they're in their seventh generation of maintaining wealth. And usually, certain studies say that family wealth tends to dissipate or disappear latest by the third generation, max fourth. But for this family to maintain wealth for such a long time, I think it explains or shows some type of um, concentration on their force, meaning maintaining the family unity.
Mm-hmm.
And one way they were able to do it is to like not try to dominate all type of industries, but instead focus what they were good at. They relentlessly focused on like information flow, um, financial leverage in a sense. And one thing that I found very interesting of the story was in page 173, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. It says they held a virtual monopoly on information, and their internal communications correspondence were written in Frankfurt Yiddish, in a code that only brothers could decipher.
Yeah.
That was like genius in a sense, right? When I read that, I was like, well, I mean, I immediately thought of you. Not that you speak Yiddish, not to my knowledge.
I know a little bit. I know some words in
A
Yiddish, but
little bit, but you know, when around Jewish communities, I've always heard, you know, this Yiddish
yeah,
language, right?
The Ashkenaz
The
communities. Yeah.
Ashkenaz. So I'm like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, I can only imagine. Not only was that creative, but it was extremely smart. Just because even nowadays, you could do that in Yiddish and be like, who speaks Yiddish? It's
Mhm,
only the only people that usually speak Yiddish is the people amongst our communities
mhm,
or my family. So, and then by them doing that, it allowed for other people not to have like that type of access to what they had, right? Why? Because it was just happened to be written in a different language.
mhm,
And uh, all that worked for them, not only because they had control, but not only because they had control, but that control allowed speed in a sense.
mhm,
By you knowing something ahead of time just because you happen to speak a different language, it provides speed of information.
mhm,
And you know, they say speed is everything when it comes to business.
mhm,
So I think by not having their resources scattered and keeping it amongst in the family is what helped them, in a sense, gain all this power um, and let it grow exponentially instead of like having it in different places. And I think basically the lesson that I would learn out of this is, or at least not because there's a reversal to this, which I found very interesting and we'll get to, but power will grow faster um, when it's aimed at one place,
mhm,
at like at a one advantage instead of many.
mhm,
Not that you can't get to, you know, other places and let that grow. But if you want to really, you know, I guess exponentially grow, focus on one, master it,
mhm,
control it, have access to the monopoly of it in a sense.
mhm.
Once you're good at that, then you can, you know, scatter off in a sense. That's kind of like what I mean, there are a few other things, but at least the most interesting thing that I found on
Yeah.
this chapter was the observance of the law, which is to actually put it into practice and see how that helped this family.
Mm, interesting. Yeah. I
What do
would
you
say
think about this story?
about this law, right? So I think I mean I definitely some of the concepts. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this concept
Hmm.
because there's definitely a thing that I want to say first that a lot of people think this is true, but it's actually not true, and there's studies that prove this. Um, there's the misconception that people think that humans that we can multitask. You know the idea of multitasking.
Hmm.
People think that's a real thing, and some people are just better than others. But in reality, humans cannot actually multitask. They cannot. What is actually happening is they're switching tasks very quickly in their head. That's what's actually happening. The concept, oh, I can multitask. That's not what's actually happening. No, you are task switching in your mind. But the problem is this: every time you keep doing that, it comes with a mental cost, which can come to fatigue and anxiety, which I'll talk about soon. And it causes more errors. The performance becomes slower and sloppy, and it gives more higher mental fatigue. And the mental cost that I'm talking about can even happen if you're switching from one simple task to another simple task, right? So this is what's actually happening mentally. It's funny, when I first read the chapter, I was like, is this chapter like anti-ambition, like anti-hustling? But then I realized the more I was delving and thinking about it, I was like, no, this chapter is being very realistic when it comes to human neurology, human psychology, right? But now, this is true about this mental taxation, this mental fatigue. If you switch from one test to another, if
Mhm.
if all the things you're doing is are completely different things. Like if you're trying to learn how to play guitar, start a side hustle, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, learning how to get to the NBA. Again, I'll give you crazy examples. All those things, right, are completely different skill sets and different things. So if you're going to switch from those four, let's say, you're going to create more mental fatigue and your performance, and all those are going to be affected. But it changes if all the tasks are similar or they complement each other well. But I'll get to that in a moment, right? There was a researcher, I wrote down her name here, researcher Sophie Leroy, and she comes from like a little school called Harvard Business School, right? Uh, it was a joke. I said a little school, the Harvard Business School,
Oh, okay. I totally ignored the little part. Sorry.
and she wrote something interesting. She said that when you're switching from task A, let's say, to task B, let's say learning how to play guitar to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, let's say, part of your attention is going to stay on the first task, which was learning to play guitar. And then the performance on the second task, which was Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, is going to suffer because your entire attention is not on the second one. A portion of your attention gets stuck on the first one, and then only half of your attention or whatever other portion goes to the second task. Now, if you have more than two things, it gets even more diluted, more smaller, right? And it's because these are completely different skill sets that then this happens, right? And it's interesting because um, this shows me and right, and just in general, a lot of times people fail not because they weren't trying, but it's because the effort was scattered over many things that were not related. They were not.
Well, they do say that if you try your best, you can never fail.
I
I
mean,
think
that's
that would.
that's not necessarily true. What
I do think it's true though.
if
I
you try
think I think it correlates exactly with what you're saying.
if you try your best? I
If
mean,
you try
I'll
your
give
best
you,
in life, you never fail. Meaning, like at something.
but I can give you a good example like of that's not true. Like for example, if you want to get, let's say you're 26 and you're trying to get into the NBA, right? And you are trying your best. You got a coach, you're freaking practicing every day. Are you going to get better? 100%. Are your shots going to go in more? Yeah, 100%. But, and you did try and you give it your all, you're definitely going to get better. You might even be able to compete at a lower level. But what if you didn't go to college? What if, right? Like, what if you never got those connections? But you really tried and you did get better at the game, right? I mean, unless you become a freaking LeBron James, right, overnight or within the couple months, right? So let's put the extreme to a side.
Well, but you're. I feel like okay, but you're comparing it to like a very minuscule, less than 1%, right? If I try, I'll never fail, and I'm gonna become the first trillionaire ever to exist. I'm at a major disadvantage, Aurus, because
All right, so let me give you an example that's more realistic.
in the NBA, there's only 450 players.
So let's make it more realistic. Let's say you just got a job as a porter, right? And you're like, within 6 months to a year, I'm gonna become a super. Within 6 months to a year, but I'm gonna work very hard.
You
I'm
know
gonna try my
somebody.
best. What? What?
I said I know somebody.
Did you do it within a year or 2 years?
Depends what you count.
Start from the beginning. When you being a porter.
Well, I was a concierge and I was a porter in the city. Um,
So
and
yeah,
then when it came
count
to
that.
this company, about a year passed, and then that's when I got promoted. But if
So it
you're
was
gonna
over a
count
year.
the city time, then yeah, it was over a year.
It
But
was
if you're
over a
gonna
year.
count
Okay.
only this time, then it was a year exactly.
But to be fair, you're also on the exception because you're the youngest super in New York City history to become the super
No,
of
union,
building with
union,
benefits. What?
union super. Yes.
A union. I know because I actually heard of someone else who became a super without union, much
Yeah.
younger than you. But
Yes.
you're the youngest with union. But it took you over a year. But I imagine I'm like, I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna give it all I got to go from porter to super in a year.
No,
It's not impossible.
no, it's very unlikely. It's highly difficult. But what I'm saying, it's not necessarily putting a time frame. Like you're putting a time frame to things, right? So my phrase that correlates with what you're saying
Uh,
is that you're like, oh, it's not that it's anti-hustle, all that, right? It's just like concentrate your, what you're good at one place, right? Instead of scattering around. So I'm like, yeah, if you try your best at something, you can never fail. Meaning like, um, I
but it actually no. But see, according to your definition,
mhm.
right? What is it you just said? If I try my best, what? Say it again.
If you genuinely try your best at something,
You won't fail, right?
you can never fail. Yes.
Okay, but then by that definition, the part where it says I won't fail, now we have to define what does failure mean to you, right? Because for example, if for me my goal is to get to the NBA, like let's say that's my first goal, but then my second goal is I just want to be able to make 3 point shots 5 in a row. So no matter where I go, I play, I'm hitting 3 pointers 5 in a row, right? So if I don't hit the first goal, and that was my only goal, you still failed, even though you got better. But if my goal is more realistic, like the
Well,
second
yeah,
goal,
obviously
yeah,
you have to be realistic with things,
yeah,
right? Because sometimes not always plan A works, plan B works instead.
correct, yeah,
But if you genuinely like, just like this chapter, if
yeah,
you concentrate all your forces at one thing, going
you're
back to
gonna
the
get
quote,
better.
you're gonna get better. In back to the quote, if you try your best at one thing, meaning genuinely try your best
Uh-huh.
at one thing, the probabilities of failing, I guess, if we want to get into the little nuances of what failing is for each and one of us as an individual, that's a different story. But failing in general, the probabilities of failing is close to none.
Well. Now that you're putting stipulations, then of course, yeah, you're right. If you're realistic, right, you're right. I mean, now that you've given more definitions, and you're
Well,
right.
you're using the extreme.
No, because it's like you're right. If you only focus on one thing, and you don't
Mhm.
even have to be good at it, you just focus everything, you will get better at it, and you're not gonna fail. If you're realistic and you put all the effort there, then you're right. You're not gonna fail. I mean, it might take you longer than someone else, let's say, but
Of course.
you'll get there, right? And this chapter really focuses, from what I understood, on that, to focus
Mhm.
on one thing. But then I found out it's either focus on one thing or you can focus on multiple things, but you got to make sure that they're related to each other, right? So for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say someone wants to learn coin Greek, right? And that is that the and let's say you also want to know more about the New Testament, let's say, because the New Testament was written in Greek, in Koine Greek, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to learn the Koine Greek alphabet and how to read it, and you're also learning, let's say, New Testament theology and everything else. You see, they're two different tasks, but they go hand in hand because one is going to help you with the other because they're related. Because the New
Mhm.
Testament was written in Koine Greek originally, so you're going to learn the original language. You're going to get that skill. Is going to help you get better at New Testament studies. Let's say, right?
Yeah.
But so you see, they go hand in hand. Um, and I think so it's either you concentrate on one thing and you get
Mhm.
good at it, or you concentrate on multiple things, but you got to make sure that they're related. And it's interesting because how do I have it here in my notes? Wait, basically, um, where is it?
I do. Can I
Yeah,
interrupt?
yeah, yeah. Tell me what's up.
Um, so does that mean that you should not chase every opportunity you get?
Be more specific with that.
Um, if you have an opportunity to do something that's not correlated with what you're good at,
Mhm.
does that mean you should not necessarily chase it?
No, it doesn't necessarily. No, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that. But then you have to think this new opportunity. What does that mean? That does that mean I have to like completely change now, drop this task for now, and focus on that one? Can I do both at the same time? So like, no, it doesn't mean like black and white. Like now, you cannot do it now. But like, if it's a good opportunity and it won't come back again, and you right, then maybe you do it. I just think it depends on the situation.
Situation, maybe it depends on age as well. Depends
Mhm.
on what you have in your life going on.
Correct.
Gotcha. It's not just as black and white.
No, it's not. It really isn't. And I feel me personally that I like many years ago, I'm definitely culpable of this, where I was doing so many things at the same time, but then it's hard because you never finish a
You
goal.
still are.
I'm still like that, but the
But they're all
difference,
related.
but now correct, but now I've learned like okay, I'm gonna do a lot of things, but they're gonna be like in the same world or like related or they complement each other. And like maybe I'll have one thing that has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. But if you look at, well, a lot of my goals, a lot of them they're very related to each other,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So, but yeah, I definitely have learned that because there's something called also, I don't know if you heard of this, called the, here, I have here in my notes. It's called the goal dilution effect. Have you heard of it?
Gold illusion effect? No.
It's basically like the psychological idea that the more goals you have, or that you're trying at the same time, especially if they're like not related to each other, the less progress you will do on all of them. So it's like you'll do a whole bunch, but you'll see that your progress will either get extremely slow or you'll never finish one, right? So your motivation gets diluted, it doesn't get multiplied because of the mental fatigue and the task switching that happens naturally when you do all this. It's interesting, right?
It's very interesting because I mean I'm self comparing it to my life.
Okay.
Where like um it's like you think of a hybrid car. A hybrid
Okay.
car has gas and it has electricity. It does
Uh-huh.
both.
Right.
And it saves on gas every time, you use the brake system. It's a whole bunch of details. So I've always tried to like, and this obviously personally, see myself as that type of system, meaning where like I could be good at one thing and I could be good at the other, as
Which is
long
true. Which is true.
as long as they're like somewhat related, right? It can't be like two completely different things. It's like either way, it is possible. It's just rare. Um, it's like being a good gymnastic, but at the same time being a good musician. Like it,
It's definitely possible.
it's
It's
not
possible.
impossible. It's just
Yeah.
very like it's just in two different worlds. It's highly unlikely for you to master both
Mhm.
unless you just happen to learn one of those things at a very young age, which is why they say the best times to learn is very young because you're constantly absorbing, your brain is developing, your body's forming, right?
Mhm.
Um, so like in my case, I was like, okay, you know what? I want to be great at basketball, but I also want to be great at calisthenics.
Mhm.
And one thing does go with the other because with basketball, you have to, eventually get stronger, and getting stronger helps you in basketball as long as you're doing not like powerlifting workouts or bodybuilding workouts. You're doing like body weight workouts or
Mhm.
nothing too crazy to help you build strength, but at the same time not overdo it. Something that doesn't combine with basketball itself.
Mm.
Um, but at the same time, like obviously all these things involve time and involve money.
Mm.
At the same time, I love to be great at boxing, just like I was I was practicing for over a year, and then I stopped.
Mm.
So it's like sometimes in our minds, which is why I'm very listening very carefully to the things you're saying, like the whole multitasking thing.
Mm.
You go for one thing, you probably won't be good at the other. Where I'm like, I guess it just depends on your time and money. If you could really be good at at those things that might be in different
World.
worlds, but if you have the time and you have the money to do it, then you could be great at both.
You're right. You definitely got to look at your time and how much it's going to cost to whatever. I also think you have to look at what's going to make you happy and feel fulfilled,
Yeah.
and like what is it you're trying to do, right? Like also, like, just because you're trying to get better at other things, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect or you have to be the top 5%, the top 10%, right? Just
You have
because
to be good enough.
you just have to be good enough. Like, for example, a lot of these people, and you know what I'm talking about, a lot of people that, for example, debate online, right? But whatever the topic is, right? Yes, I think you and I both know certain people that, like, that's all they do. That's
Yeah.
all they do is debate. They don't do anything else, and they're known to be like the top. But you don't have to be the top of anything to enjoy purpose and to feel content and to get things done and to learn and to experience, right? Like like uh, like
Because
oh yeah,
because the things that was mentioned, obviously those are just activities, right? Physical activities. Then there's
yeah.
other
But
stuff
this applies to anything.
right. It also includes I want to get smarter. I want to educate myself better. I want to do this podcast. I want to be financially free one day. Therefore, I have to
Make money
be
too.
yeah, financial advisor to my own money to be able to, make it in the next 15, 20 years in a sense.
Or you hire someone to help you out with
Or
that
you
so you
hire
can
someone,
do it.
which is this is another part of the topic. There's certain stuff I guess you should delegate.
Yes, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. 100% there's things that you should delegate. And I think this is why it's important to really get to know yourself and what fulfills you. What are those immortal projects that
Yeah.
you feel are going to make you happy or that you want to be remembered for? And what are things that you enjoy as well? So maybe a mix of both, I think are very crucial. And I think it's also, you know, because the world we live in, and I think it depends what kind of space you're in too. Like, for example, in the business sphere of the online world, let's say, I remember a couple years ago, and even today, a lot of it is to hustle, 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 work, 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 do a lot to get things done. And it's true, if you run a business, a side hustle, or you're trying to become wealthy. I was telling someone this the other day. It's like they were saying, how do I become wealthy or rich without working so hard? And I said, that's like a
Yeah.
oxymoron. That doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
It
For
doesn't work.
you, I well, I believe for you to eventually work smart, you have to work hard.
No, and even when you work smart, you still have to work
Hard, yeah.
hard. Maybe not physically, you have to work hard physically, but you're still working hard in something.
One time I heard, I was like, why does everyone ask, oh, what's the fastest way or how to do it without working hard? Why does it have to be easy? Why can't it be hard? Why can't you like learn all the lessons that it brings with? Well,
Mhm.
because it's all gonna bring character. Why does it always have to be like easy and the easy way out or the fastest way? Why not just go through the process and see all the things, the positive things that it brings you, in a sense.
Well, it's also because today's day culture and people, we don't really value so much long-term goals or long-term results or long-term depth, right? We value more what's available in the short term and all that stuff. That's one reason I would say, because of like phones and social media and instant gratification, right? We can get almost anything quickly right now. So then things that are harder or take longer to get, we in today's society, we don't appreciate it as much, or like a lot of people, they just can't do it mentally or physically because they're like, I want it now or I want it as soon as possible. But then you're like, but if you want to be the best or 1% or top 10%, it's going to take a while, right? You got to just continue. And as you like to say, life is a sprint. No, Life is a marathon, you say? Which
Life
one
is,
is it?
I say this.
You
I
said
said
this
life.
before. Life is a marathon, not
No, no, life is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you know what I mean? So I think that's very crucial. And I think in the book, I'm not going to go so much into details here, but I will say, for example, a lot of the stories, they really do focus a lot that you need to focus on one source. Now in the book, in the context of the book, they really put a lot of focus on you need to put your focus and attention and availability to one source of power, because if you can get or if you can attach yourself to one person who has the money, the connections, the power, they can always help you throughout life. And you know, the book is like saying, like, it's better to stick to one person and they notice that you're like that with them, because they'll see how loyal you are. And
Hmm.
then and I got this quote from page 175, the second to last paragraph, the last sentence. It says, in the end, the single patron appreciates your loyalty and becomes dependent on your services. In the long run, the master serves the slave.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand and notice that you don't need to become, I think you could agree with this, and you'll tell me your thoughts too. You don't need to become the CEO or the top guy or the top macho guy in a company, in a business, in a organization, or just in anything, to become rich or to become wealthy or to become powerful. You don't need to.
Right.
Here it says, listen, you stick to one person, they'll see how loyal you are, and if you make yourself very useful, they'll become dependent on you. And if someone's dependent on you, you have leverage now, right? So I think people who are listening, if you're in a company, in a business, in an organization, remember, you don't need to be the number one guy. And someone who would say this a lot was Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He would
Hmm.
say, you want to make a lot of money, you want to have power, influence. You don't have to be me. You could be the top 10th guy. You could be guy number 15, number 26, and still make a lot of money, have power, have influence, and raise up in your status, right? At work or in your career. You can do that, right? But stick to a plan, stick to a business, to an organization, and just grow, because they'll see, look how loyal this person is. For this person, they're trying to grow here, and that's what counts. They want the business. That's what the priority is, the business or the organization. What do you think?
I agree.
Okay,
I
next. Okay.
I believe we happen to see a lot through social media and through our eyes, whatever's available immediately through TV and stuff like that.
Mhm,
Um, the top spots, right? So we
mhm,
see CEOs, we see, the guy that the face of the company, whatever, but we never see like behind the scenes, the people, right? So it's like you could be the face, or as they call it, you could be the man of the shadows.
mhm,
So how can you be a man of the shadows? You might necessarily not be the face of the company, of the upcoming new social media thing, but it's more what you are doing, and your services, or whatever service you provide could be extremely useful. It just not happens to be known, just
mhm.
because there's someone else who represents. There's a face that already is there. But like you said, you could become rich. Not everyone is going to be the CEO of the company. You might be the second guy in command, the third guy in command. You might just play a very important role and get paid for it.
Correct.
But
And
not,
you're an employee your whole life.
sorry?
And you're an employee your whole life, but you made a lot of money.
Right, exactly. It's like, obviously it all depends on where you want to get to in life, right? If you really want to be the CEO and dominate and be the boss of all bosses, then go for it. But if that's not something you seek for, and maybe your seek for is just financial freedom and, provide for your family, be good at one thing, then excel at the skill that you have, be able to market it really well, enter a company that will pay you really well, and they'll use those services for their advantage, and you'll get paid for it, and both sides are happy.
Yeah, right.
And you don't necessarily have to be, the eye of the company, but you're just a man of the shadows, and there's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, we need someone like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
We need people to play a certain role, just like in sports. Not everyone could be the freaking superstar. You know, majority of the people in sports, especially team sports, are all role players.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a few superstars that have potential, and those are the people that shine. But most players in there, there's even a thing that they say it's not those 450 players in the NBA are not the best 450 players in the world. But we might just see it that way because they're at the highest level of competition.
Yeah.
But there could be one guy in there that just plays a role so well. And I want to say a name, but I don't want to say a name because
What?
you don't want to disrespect anyone.
Yeah, because who knows? Maybe in a couple years they'll be like, I don't set this about me. What the heck?
Exactly. And now they're sitting on the podcast, like say it to my face. I'm like, okay, relax. I've seen players just like be experts at rebounding just because they're tall, but they can't shoot a free throw for their fucking life. And that pisses me off because I'm like, yo, if I was there, I'd knock these 2 free throws down easily, right? But just because they're so good at catching offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, and giving their team second chance points, et cetera, they might not be the best, but they play a role so well that that skill that they bring to the team, to the company, to the business, it holds so much value.
Mm.
Therefore, you might not be the top guy, but you still get paid for what you do because you excel at it.
No, I agree. And I also think there's something that people just don't forget, that people forget. If you're not the center of attention or you're not the number one person, but you still play a role or you get paid well and you're growing and stuff, you still have time to do other things you want to do. Right? Because I assume, tell me if I'm right or wrong, tell me, because I don't know so much the behind the scenes of basketball. But let's say, for example, the example you just gave, for example, let's say a guy, someone like a LeBron James, let's say LeBron James or someone like that, who is a star. Am I right in saying like they're going to have to practice double, triple, quadruple, and just focus on being the superstar they are versus, let's say, the guy who's just good, he got hired in the NBA just to get just, and he becomes an expert of the rebounds. Now, maybe everything else he's like mediocre in, but does he have to practice as much and put as much focus in the game in his? I'm talking about practice, not right. Like let's say LeBron James or someone similar.
Yes, I mean we're not including God's gift that God gives you, right?
No,
Meaning,
we're just talking about like the effort that you need to put during practice before games.
yes, when it comes to the actual practice of the sport, when it comes to taking time to rewatch games and plays and I guess dedicating your life to it, I guess you wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to as much.
You wouldn't have to as much. Now, this doesn't mean it should, if you want to be a LeBron James or just that type of caliber player, they shouldn't, only because it's easier one route, that doesn't mean it should demotivate you to try to, if you want to be LeBron, go be the LeBron. It just depends what you want. But if you're fine with an alternative route that doesn't bring the same amount of money, the same amount of influence, but still good enough, and that's suffice for you, then there's nothing wrong with that, because then you wouldn't have to uptake the amounts of pressure
That he has.
that the other role brings, whether that's on the court or outside the court.
Okay, so that's my whole point. It's okay. So I'm glad we're on the same page. It's like people have to understand that you don't need to be the number one guy. You don't.
Everyone's capable of it.
First of all, the chances of you being the number one is like low. That's number in any
You
industry.
have to humble yourself. Like if you try to be number one, you're not. Like
correct, you're going to be humbled because you're going to realize I'm not. Also, those people who become the best of the best in different industries, the sacrifices that they had to do to get there.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not willing to do that. And actually, most people are not willing to do it. But you're right. But maybe you're not making What's the most amount that LeBron has made in a year?
I don't know. I know he's a billionaire, but
So
his contracts could be anywhere from like 50 million a year.
so let's say in 1 year he made the top what he made was 100 million. But whatever, you're the role player and you only make 15 million a year,
Oh,
right? So like, you got to be happy. You got to
just
be
50
happy
million.
and stuff like that. But the only thing I would say the reversal with this, and I thought about it even before I read the reversal of this chapter because it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This does not work if the person you were trying to stick to or the company or the organization dies
Oh
or they
yeah,
go bankrupt or they leave or something like that happens, because then guess what, you got to restart from scratch. So the book does say that maybe depending, and it doesn't really give specifics, but it does say that from time to time you should like disperse and like have different connections just in case. But I think it's like once you have a couple connections, like, and again, this is my interpretation. Once you have a couple connections, then maybe focus on one. And if God forbid something happens, you have other connections or other power sources or people you can connect to that you don't have to start from level zero or from scratch.
correct. I believe you become a more trustworthy and, in a sense, reliable person once you concentrate on like one source,
Yeah.
right? Because they see the loyalty, they see what you bring, they know you're all about it. But once that one source disappears, it's like you become weak. And then I believe that's what the author is trying to like promote, I guess, or tell us, where like when you're strong, concentrate on like one force. When you're weak is when you scatter, in a sense. But there's a whole reversal to it where like I believe, in my opinion, not the author's opinion, that when you're strong, you should concentrate. Now, should you still have options?
Yeah, of course. Well, he
And when does that apply to? Because obviously that doesn't apply to marriage, right? Uh,
unless you have polygamy, right? Unless you have polygamy.
right. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna concentrate on my marriage, but I got options just in case it doesn't work out, right? Now, many people might disagree with me.
Right.
Um, many people might have options, but like if you're gonna give it your all, you give it your all, right?
Yeah.
Now, in that circumstance, shouldn't have options. Teach his own. But
No,
people,
but I think
people,
you're right. I mean, there's different ways you could do it, but again, we could
right?
do
It's
a whole
like,
podcast on that alone.
yeah, still have connections, still have someone nearby. It's like don't burn all your bridges or don't put your eggs in one basket, right? That doesn't mean you can't concentrate on one and have your loyalty towards one. But
Mhm.
like, God forbid, or whatever happens, X, Y, and Z, this thing doesn't work out. You know what? I can always go to plan B
Yeah,
in case.
just in
Not
case.
that my loyalty is towards plan B. I just need to have a backup,
Yeah. Correct.
you know?
And I think, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. But in summary, this chapter is really just saying focus on one person, on one source, one business, one organization. Put your focus there because then you will grow. You will grow because your focus, your concentration is there. They say it's not really about time management, it's about managing your attention. Not time, but your attention, right? I've heard that before because wherever your attention is, as you said in the beginning, if you're really focused and you're really trying your best and you're realistic and you grow or you get what you want, you're going to succeed. But it's because your attention is in one place and you're focusing there, right? Either you do one or you could do multiple things that are related. But even then, for some people that might not work because they don't have the ability so much to switch tasks quickly. Because for some people they might suffer more versus others. So I just think that's something people should have in mind with the concept of switching tasks or multitasking and all that stuff.
I found that very interesting, though. I still do believe people could multitask.
No, I mean, it's a misconception. There's a lot of studies on I think it's a psychology. Definitely. Wait, I forgot what kind of psychology. Look, is it cognitive psychology? I don't remember. But they've debunked the idea of multitasking. It's a very known phrase, but it's
They
not real.
but they debunk it because you're not giving your 100% to one task, or because you're not capable of doing two things at once.
No, it's because the idea of multitasking doesn't exist. Because in reality, what's really happening is what I mentioned, is what the brain is actually doing, right? But multitasking, where I'm doing, let's say, five things at once, let's say, right? You're not really doing that. You're just switching tasks in your brain. It
But
sounds like it's the same thing, but it's not.
but you could be doing two things at once.
No, no, no. So you can, but
But
here is the difference, though.
the difference in concentration is not 100. Obviously, it's maybe 50-50.
Maybe, or it could be different numbers, right? But in reality, but you know when that works, when one of the activities, what's the word they use? When one of the activities doesn't require thinking from you. So, like for example, some people can like listen to a podcast and like fold the laundry, right? Right. So
Right, and still concentrate on what they're listening to.
so they can concentrate on what they're listening because for them, folding the laundry is not you're not really thinking. It's mechanical. It's already like they've done it so much already, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, that's not really multitasking. Your brain is just it's switching tasks. Like you're listening, okay, this so it's switching so quickly, right? But what happens that that activity actually um you don't use so much. I forgot the terms they use to explain this, but like you don't need to use so much quote. Let's just use this term, brain power, because it's so
It's a,
you have the muscle memory to do it, right?
so what about if well, which is one thing I believe you do and I do a lot. It's like if we're talking to one another and then one person has a phone, you stop talking until they get off their phone and then you continue talking. And it's not like that person was trying to be rude, right? On their phone, they just
Like
need
some
to answer
people.
something quick. Um, but you stop talking because now their focus is not 100% on you anymore.
So see, correct. So then you just switched
Now,
tasks.
they might still be capable of listening to you while texting because texting for them could be a routine thing too,
Yeah,
but it's just not out of the concentration that you want it to be.
correct. Yeah,
Gotcha.
you got it. It's definitely interesting. I learned that like I think like last year, 2 years ago, because I also thought this concept of multitasking exists, but then I found out that it wasn't true. Um, but there's studies on this. There's studies like in the American Journal of Psychology. They have some studies. The University of Michigan. I forgot the names of these researchers. Like they did research on this stuff. So it's very interesting stuff. It really is. Are you ready for Law 24?
Yeah. Let me read it.
Yeah, read it to me.
Law 24, play the perfect courtier.
No, thanks. Okay.
Judgment. The perfect courtier thrives in a world where everything revolves around power and political dexterity. He has mastered the art of indirection. He flatters, yields to superiors, and asserts power over others in the most oblique and graceful manner. Learn and apply the laws of courtiership, and there will be no limit to how far you can rise in the court. Now, this law was long,
Yeah, no, this was a long chapter.
very
But I
long.
think there's a lot to learn. But I think,
Yeah. So,
yeah, all right, tell me. Yeah, go.
yeah, what's something you took out of this chapter? Something you liked, something you didn't like, or just a lesson for you, or any of the stories that the author spoke about.
So I'm gonna put the stories to aside because
Okay.
when I was reading this chapter, I was thinking that I think a question that people would have when reading this chapter is Law 24 about manipulation or is this about social intelligence? Right?
Depends how you use it.
Well, that's definitely an answer. Depends how you use it,
That's why
right?
they say this book is bad is good for the civilized but bad for the uncivilized. But continue.
It's true. But I was thinking about it, and again, as you said, it depends how you use it and who you are, right? But in reality, this chapter is really not about lying or about, right? This chapter, when I'm reading it, it's about how I, as a person, can use psychology
To your
in
back.
public the right way, right? Like it's like about me choosing the right timing, the right tone, the right battles. Which one should I take? Which ones I should not take, right? And and this chapter is about adapting so then other people can cooperate with you. And to also remember that if you apply this chapter in your life, you will build a higher EQ, which is a higher emotional intelligence, a higher social intelligence, right? Now, it's interesting because I was thinking this. I was thinking this chapter, what it's really trying to tell us, that you have to really adapt. You have to be a chameleon, and you have to learn what to say, what not to say, who to say it to, when not to say it to, and like why not, why yes. You have to really learn this communication, social intricacies of different situations and learn how to read the room. But someone might say, but that's being fake. You're lying. You're a liar. You're faking. You're not authentic, right? And I could hear that argument. But then you know what I'm thinking? That a lot of the times people might say that it's because it threatens their identity narrative in their mind and in their heart. So when people say that, oh, but then you're being fake. And listen, fake people are annoying. Don't get me wrong. All right. I do agree with that. But people that say, oh, you shouldn't act like this. You're being a liar, a manipulator, and you're being fake. You got to be authentic to yourself. In my mind, I'm thinking this person has a problem with their identity. That's why for them it's difficult to do this.
I would agree.
Does it make sense?
Yes, I mean, I believe you might be. I don't know if you're quoting it, but they do kind of talk about it in the fourth. I would call it not the fourth. Well, I'm just gonna call it the fourth paragraph
Page
uh,
180.
of page 180.
Uh-huh.
Alter your style and language according to the person you are dealing with.
Mhm.
It says because you were like, oh, some people can accuse you of being fake, of not being authentic, but in that paragraph, it says obviously it kind of like correlates a little bit with it just because it's like depending who you talk to,
Mhm.
how you act, right? Or how you
Mhm.
speak. And it says in that paragraph, this is not lying, this is acting. And acting is an art, not a gift from God. Learn the act. I mean, sorry, learn the art.
Mhm.
So I was like thinking of what you were saying, like it's not that you're being fake, but you're somewhat acting, and it's an art as well.
Mhm.
Where like not only with the person you're dealing with, like this paragraph talks about, but like as you were mentioning, it's not necessarily about being fake. It's just knowing how to deal with situations depending who you're with, where you're at, and who you're talking to.
Correct. Yeah. Because a lot of the times being how you are is not going to get you what you want, right? And sadly we live in a world where it is about hierarchy. It is about trying to get things, improve our careers, our relationships. And a lot of times you have to adapt. It doesn't mean change your values though, right? I didn't say change your values, your morals, denounce your religion. Like I'm not saying that. But the way it's true. And you know who talks about this is Tony Robbins. I forgot which of his books he talks about this, but he has a tactic called, well, it's a very famous tactic called like you mirror the other person, you mirror them, right?
Okay.
He talks specifically about mirroring their tone of voice and the words they use, right? So, for example, if someone is speaking with a very high voice, but then you're talking to me like, yeah, it was fun. How's everything? But and I'm like, yo, let's go party, bro. Let's go out, let's go have some drinks. And you're like, yeah, I think I would also like to have some drinks and stuff. It's like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? It's like he's killing the vibe, right? And maybe
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to kill the vibe, but if you mirror, you match my tone of voice,
Energy, yeah.
feel like, oh man, we're on the same level. Or if you mirror certain words I use, like if I'm using very sophisticated language and I'm saying like, well, according to the stock market, there was a plummet of the Starbucks stock, right? And then you say, yeah, I was reading the New York Times, and you're right, the stock did plummet. Now, of course, I'm not saying to use that for every single word because then it becomes obvious,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you start to mirror them, and then people feel like we're on the same level. It's this psychological phenomenon that happens. But and the one you're talking about, it says your style and your language to who you're dealing with, because with every gender, different cultures, is English their first language, right? Are they their emotion, their feelings that they're portraying to you? You have to adapt to everyone, but a lot of people don't like doing this because they feel like their identity is being changed. And also, a lot of people don't like hierarchy. They don't like power differences. So if they're doing this, like this tactic, they feel like they're being submission, or they're submitting to the other person. And no one wants to feel like they're submitting, right? No one wants to feel that. So that's another reason why so many people would not want to do this, because it's fake, it's not authentic. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's just insecurity. They're like, I don't want to feel like I'm below you or inferior, which is a normal human feeling.
Yeah, it's just I believe you have to be able to get over that feeling if you want to get well, depending what your goal is, but I guess somewhere in life, right? Um, most of us want to be able to have a fruitful life,
Hmm.
and sometimes that's gonna involve, you being at work, and let's say you want to grow in a company and stuff like that. Then some of these things are just going to naturally apply to you,
Hmm.
especially if you're not at a high position, but you eventually want to be promoted there, you know, and that could apply in so many ways in life, but some of these are just naturally going to apply to you. If you don't apply these, there's no way you get promoted. It's like,
And you hit it on the spot, because you're right. Even if someone denies this tactic or they don't want to do it, you're
yeah,
you're really saying, well, if you deny it or not, or if you want to do it or not, it doesn't matter, because this is just how life works. This is how society works.
exactly. It's like you're not going to really criticize the person above you, are you?
No,
Especially at, let's say, at work. It's
definitely
just, especially in a direct way.
not. Mhm.
Would that really be the smartest way to approach a situation or a problem, criticizing your boss in a
No,
direct manner, as if you're trying to put all the blame on him?
definitely not.
Guess what? Even if that were the case, and if it were true that the blame is on him, let him figure that out.
Mhm.
Let him come to that realization, or let the second guy in command have that conversation with him. It's not your position to do it. You can just it's like you could suck um in a gentle way, in a subtle way, mention, oh yeah, this is what's going on,
Mhm.
and this is the problem we've encountered. But you don't necessarily have to, yo, because you haven't done this, this is what's happening, right? So like, whether you like it or not, if you want to get somewhere in life, unless you want to stay in the same spot, you got to stay stuck in. These are going to apply to you in life,
Well, yeah,
um,
whether you like it or not.
whether you like it or not. Um,
But yeah, no, this
so
chapter,
many.
yeah, this chapter where it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. How many? 12, 13, 14. Has 14 techniques.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them now, but there is one or two I want to talk about quickly. But I
Okay.
think that if people are listening, this is a great chapter. It basically is just teaching you how to increase your emotional intelligence to be the perfect courtier. So basically, no matter where you go, you can adapt. And if you use these 14 tactics, these 14 principles that the chapter is saying, you're going to be likable anywhere. You can communicate, you'll be likable, and you can go up the ladder depending on what industry you're in. Some industries are easier than other, but these are like tactics that if you just have in the back of your head, you'll be successful no matter where you go, because you can connect and have grace and be charming, and people are gonna people emotionally are gonna connect you with with good emotions, right? But one of the tactics which I thought was great, which was I'm just gonna mention two. That's it. That I thought were the most interesting. They're all great, but it's the second one. Practice nonchalance or nonchalance, as I've heard different pronunciations, and the fourth one is arrange to be noticed. So just quickly, the second one, practice to be a nonchalant person, right? Now this is interesting because a lot of the times we think, oh, if I show people or if I tell people how hard I work, they'll be proud of me. And maybe your mother, your father, or your family, yes. But other than that, no one else is gonna be proud of you, right? As a matter of fact, you can actually rub people the wrong way, where they're like, oh, this guy thinks he's all that because maybe, yeah, he puts all the time. I could do the same thing, and you'll create jealousy, right? When you're really not trying to. But if you can show, if you just tell people, listen, I did this, I did that, but you don't show them the behind the scenes, in their minds, they're gonna like, wow, how did Aron do this and do that? Like, and he only had 24 hours, just like how I did. How did he do it? And you keep up that illusion, it gets people in shock. And the
Yeah.
other one is arranged to be noticed. Now, at in a superficial way, it looks like it contradicts the first one, which is avoid ostentation.
Yeah.
But what they're really trying to say here is you want to be noticed in what you're good at, so that the boss or the person in charge or someone of that nature sees you doing what you do best. They notice you because of something you did, something you said, but you're not being conceited, you're not being arrogant, and then they're going to remember that because you were noticed, you figured out a way for you can be noticed, and now when the opportunity comes up, they're going to remember that crucial moment. So I think those are like the most important ones out of the 14.
I like those. I think other ones that I would tend to that go hand in hand with the ones you mentioned is the third one, which is be frugal with flattery.
Yes.
Um, Meaning that like learn how to it says learn to flatter indirectly, downplay your own contribution, for example, to make your master look better in a sense, right? So there's gonna be times you do something great, but you know what? Don't be like, yeah, all praise to me. You know, you say, just something normal. It's all good. Like no big deal in a sense, right? So be frugal to the flattery that others are giving you, or maybe let some. I mean, I don't even remember the chapter, but it's like we talked about it before. Let someone else take the credit in a sense at times, but and then there's times you take the credit. But at least for this chapter, if you want to play the perfect courtier, then um, you have to be frugal with that flattery that comes in with you sometimes. Don't overstimulate it as if you're the guy, right?
Are you saying to yourself or to your superiors?
To yourself.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying. You're right. You got to be frugal with what's the word? Alabándote, praising yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but this is also talking about being frugal with you doing that to your superiors too. You wouldn't agree that you got to be careful with that too? To
Uh,
be like not like don't kiss too much butt like that. What do you
oh
think?
yeah, I mean, yeah. Don't be a complete kiss ass, unless your boss likes you to be a kiss ass.
And they're throwing you $100 bills for
Yeah,
every time
exactly.
you do
Right.
it. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it all day.
Right. I mean, because if you're too much of a kiss, it's be a decent kiss ass, right? Don't be right. You have to relax on the moise, right?
Oh
Because then
wow.
your boss is like, whoa, he's kissing my ass too much. He might clench his cheeks a little bit and be like, be like, this feels a little weird. He's doing it a little too much. He might want something from me, right? Or he wants a favor. He needs something. That's why he's kissing my ass, right? So you have to like just relax. Be don't take too much like flattery or
Of
like
course.
you know what, it's all good, it's not a big deal, but at the same time don't be like, yeah, all hail praise to the boss, he's the best in the world, no one is better than
That's
him, right? it's like you got to know how to do it. You got to know how to talk. Like sometimes I'll do this with my boss, or like, but I'm using a tone of sarcasm when I talk with him, right?
Uh,
So he's sitting in the office alone. I'm like, "Where's the best boss in the world?" And then something like that, but in a sarc, and he'll roll his eyes,
uh,
right?
he's like, what do you want now?
He's like, "What do you want now?" But I'm not saying it as if I mean it. Obviously, I don't mean it. But like,
He's not the best boss in the world.
well, if he happens to see this video, of course he is. But like, the tone of sarcasm helps
Mm-hmm.
in a sense where I'm just trying to annoy him, or like I'm kissing ass, but I'm not really trying to kiss your ass. It's in the tone of sarcasm, right?
Uh,
So it's like, I guess there's ways to say things, but obviously don't be a complete kiss ass where like um where they're gonna start to suspect you. Where
mm,
like
gotcha.
something's up with this guy.
Uh-huh.
Other two that I liked as well was Master Your Emotions. That's in page 182. Disguise your anger and frustration. Because this talks about just be the master of your own face,
Yeah,
which is extremely important, right? Know when to show and when not to show.
which I
Don't
agree.
don't show as only because one thing didn't go your way. Now you're extremely frustrated. You're extremely upset.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a sense, your master is gonna be like, "Oh, word? Really? Like you're gonna take it that far where you're not gonna talk to me anymore, or now you're different, or like now you're losing them at that
Mm-hmm.
point because you haven't learned how to master your emotions. While if you would just okay, no problem, might have
Mm-hmm.
annoyed you, but if you still, behave the same way, nothing is suspicious.
True.
And the one that I liked a lot was actually fit the spirit of the times.
Mm.
And I wrote in next to it is because it's the best way to like disguise. Um, a slight affection of the past era can be charming as long as you choose a period at least 20 years back. I mean, your spirit and way of thinking must be kept up with the times, even if the times offend your sensibilities. Be forward thinking, however, no one will understand you. It's never a good idea to stand out so much in this area. You're the best of at least being able to mimic the spirit of the times. So the spirit of the times, the way I understood it, and tell me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you have to keep up with the things going on now
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to accept some things even if they don't stand well with what you believe in.
So you're saying you have to agree with it, or you have to understand it, or know it? Like, what are you
Understand
saying?
it, be empathetic or sympathetic towards it,
Mm-hmm.
and just stay in a neutral ground. Um, tell me if I'm interpreting this wrong, but in the line that is said, your spirit and way of thinking must keep up with the times, even if the times offend your sensibilities.
Yes.
For example, and this is a very extreme example that I'm going to use. Back in the day, it was like, yo, gay, homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
Not that people don't have those opinions nowadays, they still do. But it's like if you want to be able to disguise, and obviously I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking as a courtier right now, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to disguise, you have to be able to, you know, up with the times now is that it's accepted. It's okay. So if you want to be able to disguise and still play a good courtier in a sense amongst others or in front of your master, I guess having a neutral opinion or having not much to say but keeping up, being like, you know what, they're people. It's cool. Like everyone does what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But deep inside, it could be like, yeah, I don't accept that. It doesn't align with my morals or the way I live life or the way I see life.
Mm-hmm.
But you're disguising yourself and you're just keeping up with the spirit of times, you know?
Correct.
either way, it might offend what other people think. But there's a time and place to really express the authenticity of yourself, while in certain situations just keep it neutral and just, yeah, you know, don't let it be known that it offends you, but just let everyone know that you accept it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm interpreting it right.
No, I think no, you understood it correctly. He's basically saying here, you don't want to be too
Old fashioned.
old fashioned,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to be thinking too way ahead of the times.
Right. You
Because
don't want to have, so you don't want to have a boomer's mentality
I guess so, yes.
in
But
a sense.
it's like saying like you don't want to be thinking like in the 20s, like today. Like you don't want to have the mentality of someone in the 20s, but
Yeah.
you also don't want to have the mentality of someone that's in 2100. We're in 2025. So 75 years from now, you have the thinking of then because no one's going to understand you. But he's saying here, you're right. You got to be like I like to say the example of a chameleon, where you
Right. Adaptable.
adaptable, where it's like again, you don't have to agree for what, and there could be different reasons why you don't agree, right? But he's saying just have the mentality, understand, whatever, be empathetic. It doesn't mean even if it offends you, but have it in mind, understand it, because a lot of times there are people who are very close-minded who and again, this is
So,
not saying to accept it. It's not saying that.
right. Of
It's
course. Yeah.
but some people are so close-minded, they don't even want to understand it. They're like, no, 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 no. I'm right, and only I'm, and maybe they are right, maybe, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be open to hearing the other perspective or the other way of thinking or the other thought,
Mhm.
because maybe these people think a certain way or something is accepted for societal reasons, so sociological reasons, it could be so many things, right?
Right.
That we have to have in mind. But that is what it's basically saying. Yeah, correct. So you got it right.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, out of the chapter, those three were really good. I liked them a lot. Um, just because it keeps a balance, right?
It keeps a balance. And I think people who are going to buy this book or read this chapter, I think the what they should have in mind for this chapter as a conclusion is the most important thing to understand about this chapter is that this is not about submission, but it's about understanding human psychology in social spaces in public. That's what this chapter is really about. If you can hone that in your mind and understand that, listen, we are humans, we have patterns, we there are principles that if I apply to my career, to my love life, to my friendships, to my spiritual life, or just meeting people, I'm going to get ahead, right? And we shouldn't think about it like, oh, I'm trying to take advantage of people. No, because at the end of the day, you're going to give back. They're going to give you life, energy, the universe, the world. It really is a give and get. It really is now, right? It really is. So if you can have that in mind, and you want to play this role because you're going to be more likable, you're going to communicate better, you're going to get better results, less fighting, hitting your goals, right? Especially if you put your attention in the right places in Law 23. You see, they go hand in hand.
No, they go hand in hand. They go hand in
They
hand.
really do. You're going to be so successful. You're going to be so successful in anything you put your mind to in all aspects of your life.